Welcome to Tea
and E with the T.
I'm your host, Teresa.
I'm your co-host, Edwin.
And today we're talking about the crazy mom vlogger. Viewer and listener discretion is advised. This episode contains discussion of sensitive topics that may be distressing for some audiences. Please take care while listening, and if these topics are triggering for you, we encourage you to prioritize your well-being. How do you feel about family vlogs? You know how there's family YouTubers? How do you feel about that? What's your thought process?
I feel like a lot of people are going to have things to say about their actions that they do.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to get poorly influenced.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, by people that are just like couch potatoes.
Yeah.
Watching every move that they make, you know?
Uh-huh.
Some, not all. But I
But
think that...
what do you feel about them?
I feel like...
when you watch, do you usually watch them? Do you like watching them?
Oh, no.
Or is it weird to have, or for parents to be recording their kids because they're kids, they don't know, what's going on, and then also people out there, they're watching
I don't think
kids.
It's weird to record your kids, to be honest with you.
And put it online?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know what I guess there'll be perverts out there, but there's perverts out there for everything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't have kids. Maybe I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't. I mean, I would post my children on my Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
or post a video of them doing stuff on,
Yeah.
So it's. I guess, would it be the same thing?
It would be the same thing, I think, because you're putting your kids in the public eye. To be honest, I also don't see a problem with it, but there's a lot of people that, just disagree with it because of how many perverts are out there in the world and all of that. But it's I don't know, if I want to share, my kids and their lives, I think for me, I think I have the ability to do that as their parent. But obviously, if they get to a point where they're like, oh, I don't want to be on camera, or I don't like being on camera, then I would respect them and be like, okay, well, I'm not going to put you on camera, or I'm not going to take your picture. If you're not, my kid doesn't feel comfortable. Comfortable.
I would definitely sit him down and be like, what's going on? Because if he doesn't want to be a camera, I feel like it's a deeper...
Well, I feel like everybody goes through those phases. As a teenager, you go through a phase where you're just you don't want to you just
be
feel
on pictures and
yeah, you just feel you just go through that phase, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it gets to that point where they don't want to be on camera, or they don't want me to post them, because sometimes parents be posting the most ugliest pictures of us. Like, my mom has a bunch of pictures of me on her Facebook where I'm just like, why did you post that? I look ugly. So it's the same thing, right? So the reason why I bring that up is because a lot of people, like I said, are very back and forth with family vloggers, family YouTubers. Well, there was this family called the 8 Passengers.
The 8 Passengers?
8 Passengers. So it was Ruby Franke and her husband. They made a YouTube channel. Well, she wanted to make the YouTube channel. She started it, and she basically made it about her kids, about her family. Like them going on trips, them doing little hobbies, stuff like that, right? So the reason why she wanted to do this, it was a deeper meaning, or a deeper reason as to why she wanted to create this YouTube channel. She wanted to show people that she was an amazing mom. She wanted people to tell her that she was amazing, that she was an amazing mother, that she was just very powerful, and that she could do anything. She wanted that attention, right?
Yeah, it's giving low self-esteem, kind of, you need reassurance.
Right. So yeah, so that was who she was, and that's the reason why she wanted to start her channel. Well, it went from something very beautiful and very just this normal family, to now she's in jail. Yeah. The way she disciplined her kids, she would show it on her YouTube videos, and people started commenting about it. They were like, why do you discipline your kids like that? They did not agree with the way she was, raising them, basically.
Yeah.
We're only going to be talking about the older ones, because the younger ones are still underage.
They're how many again?
There's 6.
Okay.
So 8 passengers.
Yeah.
So it's the 2 parents and her 6 kids.
Okay.
I didn't get to mention that. But the way she would discipline them, it was just very odd. It was to the extreme. The oldest kid that we're going to be talking about, he got his bed taken away for months. Well, not even his bed, his whole room for months.
Taken away?
Yes, because that was the way she disciplined them. You don't listen, okay, you don't get to go to you didn't get to have your room. So that's one example.
She got some loose screws, huh?
Yeah. So that's one
Qué
example.
mamadas.
Another one is that she would even allow her kids, like the younger ones, the ones that are not even like 18, the ones that are like 10 years old, like, or even 5, she would have them prepare their own lunch. If they don't take their lunch, she's not bringing them anything. If the kids do not take
That
their
one's
lunch,
iffy.
but
Responsibility.
that's what she was saying. But would you let
Nah,
your
yeah.
kids starve?
Now, yeah, if you
The teacher
mess up,
texted
you're there to like
exactly.
have their back, but they shouldn't, yeah, rely on you. But yeah,
Yeah, because at that
I guess
time,
you have to find an alternative because you got to feed your kids.
that situation, the teacher ends up texting her and saying, "Hey, your daughter didn't bring any lunch. Do you mind bringing her lunch because she knows she's not going to be able to eat?"
Yeah,
And she's like, "No, that's her. That's her way of learning how to that she needs to bring her lunch and she
dang.
needs to not forget. So she's not going to eat."
Well, what happened? Did they?
Well, that's what
What
we're going to get
happened? What the
into it.
cause of that? Did they start bringing their lunch?
Well, I don't know. So yeah, so this story is where things seemed perfect on the outside, but was complete opposite. A popular mom vlogging her kids every day, living to wholesome Mormon life until all unraveled in the most horrific way. I am gonna do a 2-part series because it's a lot of information. So in this part 1, we're just gonna be talking about Ruby's background, the rise of her YouTube channel, and the parenting patterns and the family dynamics that they had in her. On the second one, we're gonna talk about Jody. Jody's involvement. That lady is crazy. She's known as the demon of the
Jody.
family. We'll get into it. She's a psychologist that becomes or ends up in the family. But like I said, we'll get into it. That's going to be part 2. We're going to talk about Jody's involvement, the unraveling, and the arrest. So, and all the aftermath of the situations and all the things that happened. So, Ruby Franke, she was born in Logan, Utah. She was born on January 18th, 1982. So, she's 43. She's the first child of 5. So, she's the oldest. And that kind of plays a part. I feel like older kids tend to be very try and like they want to control everybody. I mean, we're older kids. We want to be the ones to tell people what to do. We clash on that, me and you, because we're the older kids and we want to do the things that we want to do the way that we want to do it.
Yeah.
So that plays a part though. And she grew up in the LDS church. You know what the LDS church, right? It's basically a Mormon church. So she grew up Mormon. She thought of motherhood as in like she wanted to control her kids and she wanted to be the best mom, right? So she was just waiting for that moment to get married, to be able to have kids and raise her kids the way she wants them to be raised. She wants, to make her own rules. She wants it to do it the way she wants to do it, right? So I'm assuming maybe she just didn't like the way her parents were raising their kids, or I don't know, but she just
She
wanted
wanted
it.
to show herself.
She wanted to prove that she is a better mom, basically, in shorter words. But she married this man named Kevin Franke. They married in December 28th, 2000. So, a little bit of their story on that. They met in college.
How old was she? She was 17,
She
18.
was like 18.
Yeah.
Mhm. So, they met in college. And it was really weird the way they met. But supposedly, from what Kevin talked about, their story and how they met, this was in a documentary series on Hulu. And I watched it. And basically, he talks about when he met her, every guy wanted her. Every guy was always all over her. Like, they wanted Ruby, right? And Kevin was like a nerd, the way he described himself. He said that he was a nerd. He was not confident. So like to get Ruby, for him it was like gonna be, you know, she's the best that I could ever get because she's, wanted by everybody. And if she looks at me and she wants me, then, I won, basically. So Kevin ended up doing something very weird in order to win her over. So I am going to talk about a little bit about him before I even get to that. Kevin was born on October 9th, 1978 in also Utah. He was the youngest of 7, so that also plays a part. So the youngest are always kind of controlled by their older
Subordinate.
siblings,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Not all the time, obviously,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they're used to being controlled. They're used to
Yeah.
be told what to
Told what
do.
to do, not controlled. Yeah.
Told what to do, yes. So that plays a part, but I'll continue. But he's the youngest. And he felt like to him, marriage was more like it was just like his way of he wanted to find somebody in order to live with them for eternity. Like that was his thing. Like because of how like he lacked confidence, he felt like if he were to marry somebody, that person would give him so much confidence because he knows that somebody wants him and he's going to keep that person for eternity and he's going to do whatever it takes to keep him, right?
You know what
So
I've
that's the
noticed?
way, huh?
A little bit of every story, I hear us. Like, we want that. Like, we're going to have each other for eternity.
Uh-huh.
Like, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Me and you are good. That's it, you know?
Yeah.
And in the previous stories, I'd be hearing little things, you know? I'd be like, is that us?
Don't say that now because
I'd be
the previous
comparing
stories,
ourselves. I'm like, what?
because the previous stories were a little
No,
bit,
but it's like little things. I think it's like the beginning of the things, but then it turns into extreme.
yeah.
You know what I
I
mean?
think it's with every relationship though. You don't
Yeah.
think so? Like it comes with every relationship, those little things. But then like people kind of twist it and turn it and make it
By
end
its
bad.
normalization. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways. So yeah, so that was his thought process on marriage, right? Very different to what Ruby Franke kind of thought marriage was.
Mm-hmm.
And so now he met Ruby. Ruby was the most beautiful, supposedly at that time, to everybody. Everybody wanted her. So he would do anything for her. So what he did, he found out that Ruby had this kind of table in her closet. How? I don't know. But she had this table in her closet. I don't know if she was dorming. It doesn't really, like, when I was watching the documentary, because when he talks about it and then when I searched it, it doesn't really say if it was the dorm or at her house or her parents' house or whatever. I don't know. Or if they were already hanging out.
But it
I
was
don't
in
know.
a closet.
But it was in her closet, in her room. But she had a table. Basically, that table had a list. In that list, it was the list of the men that she had a crush on or that wanted her. And then on the other side, like, the on the very top were the names. On the left side of the table were basically the categories or like the what's the
Characters, traits.
characters. Yes, the traits that she wants in a man. And then she would mark it off from each person. She would mark off the traits that they had that she liked. Does that make sense? That was on the list. So let me read you a little bit of the traits that
Mm-hmm.
supposedly these men had to have. First one is very handsome, shaves, will help child with homework, comfortable to talk, doesn't swear, not overly spiritual, good with siblings, smells good, 5 inches taller than her, I don't even know how tall she was. I didn't look that up. But likes yard work, wants 6 kids, prays daily, is crazy about me. Okay? So those are little traits that she wants in her perfect man, right?
Sounds like Teresa.
But no.
Mm.
I never made a chart like that. That's
But in your
weird.
head.
Yeah, I prayed it to God, but I didn't make a chart with all the guys on there, you know? But anyways, so what he did, he read this chart, right? He read through it and he was like, okay, I'm gonna, remember this. I'm gonna write this down and I'm gonna study it real hard because I want to be with Ruby. And he said that he studied it so hard, he probably never studied like this for a test. Like he studied real hard on with this chart, right? And so he goes and he acts the way, Ruby wanted this man to be, the perfect man for her to be. And he marked off all the boxes. Why? Because he studied it. That was not legit, but he was actually just pretending most of the time. Ruby and Kevin started dating, right? And Ruby fell in love with Kevin. Like that was just it, obviously, because he studied the chart. Kevin tells a story about Ruby and Kevin, about them two. One day they were on a date. I don't know whose house they were in, but they were watching a movie and they were holding hands for the first time. Kevin was super excited because he was like, I'm getting to hold Ruby's hand and blah, blah, blah. Like, he was just super excited. His heart was fluttering. Then, Kevin's sitting there. He's, looking at their hands. Oh, how cute.
Yeah.
And then he sees, they're under a blanket. I'm sorry. I forgot to mention this. They're under a blanket. They're holding hands on the blanket. They're holding hands on the blanket. And then he turns around and supposedly there's this other guy that's sitting right next to her on the other side, right? Next to Ruby on the other side. And Kevin notices that Ruby is holding hands with that other guy too. And so then Kevin got so mad and he was like, yeah, no. So Kevin gets up and he storms out and Ruby follows him. And Kevin's like, don't ever hold another man's hand while you're holding mine. Like, that's not gonna roll with me. And for some reason, Ruby was like, oh my God, like, I like the way he just talked to me. Like, I want him.
But it's crazy, like, you, a person that's more controlling and more like dominant, when you're dominated by, or like when dominance is showed over you by your significant other, is low-key attractive.
Kevin's dominance over her flattered Ruby a lot, to the point where she was like, okay, let's meet our parents. Like, Ruby is like, I want you to meet my parents and I want to meet yours. Right? So that happens. They end up meeting each other's parents. So 2 weeks after Ruby and Kevin met, Ruby asked the question, so are we getting married? Kevin thinking like, oh my God, like I have Ruby now. Like Ruby's asking me to get married. I mean, to marry her and all this stuff. Like I cannot say no. Like I can't lose her. She's literally the one that everybody wants. Like I get to have her. So he says yes. So Kevin says yes. Let's get married. They married 3 months after knowing each other.
Sounds like a couple I know. You see?
Ooh.
Little things like this.
Oh.
Like so soon, rushed. We did it.
What are you trying to say, that we're gonna end up like that?
I don't know.
I'm gonna end up in jail? No. But everybody's story. All right, let me continue, right? So they got married 3 months after knowing each other, which that is insane. Because you still haven't asked me for a hand in marriage. But anyways,
without a house, huh? We're gonna be married at my mom's house?
No, then that would hurry us up to get a house.
I want to build my empire first.
We don't have to get married right away. I just have to have a ring.
Oh.
Anyways, let me continue. They got married in 3 months. Anyways. So this is when Ruby's power started, right? So they got married Right away, she was like, all right, I want to have kids. Ruby told Kevin, I want 6 kids. First of all, he didn't want that many kids. He was like, I just want 3, 4, that's it. Ruby was just like, no, I want 6, right? So he was like, okay, anything to keep her, right? His thought on marriage was he will do anything and everything to keep his woman, right? To keep his marriage. So that's what happened. So they started with their first one, March 3rd, 2003. Shari was born. That is their oldest daughter. She had a lot of complications with this birth. She had a lot of medical complications during the pregnancy. It was just not easy, but Ruby was just really excited, and she was just really excited at the fact that she was about to start her life.
Was it because she was skinny, you think?
I don't know. Basically, she was like, this is the start of my life, right? As soon as she had her first daughter. So Ruby didn't believe in comforting Shari when she was a baby. Ruby's thought process, and this also is a part of the Mormon Church. So their thought process, or her thought process of her family's motive was, it doesn't hurt a baby to cry things out, right? So she's gonna let the baby cry. And a baby shouldn't be uh a baby shouldn't
Nurtured?
be like basically rocked. A baby shouldn't be nurtured. A baby shouldn't be like, babied, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like,
I
she just
understand what
didn't
you're
believe
saying.
that.
Yeah, but
She
doesn't make sense.
exactly. Okay. So tantrums shouldn't be tolerated, which I guess,
Yeah.
but it's a kid. What do you expect?
It's a balance. Between all the things that they say, is a balance. It's not like nothing. It's a balance, because you can't just go to your baby every time he cries, because then he'll get that, and then supposedly you're supposed to let him, like, go to sleep, and even if he cries, some things I watched from The Good Doctor. Yeah.
I'm scared for kids because I honestly, I don't know what's the right way. And then for me as a mother, if I hear my kid cry,
It's gonna hurt you.
it's gonna hurt me so much. I don't want to hear my kid cry. I don't want to see my kid cry. So it's gonna hurt a lot. But the fact that she was very like, no, I'm not comforting you. You crying, that's it. That's you're gonna comfort yourself. Like,
Yeah.
that's the way she thought. That was her thought process. Those things, those little, like, motives that her family has, she thought that that was just gonna be, for their own good. So she was like, they're gonna be raised as independent people. They're gonna be raised as not having to go to people to get comforted. Like, they're gonna be raised as these good independent kids, right? That's not true.
Yeah, because
There's a certain
you'll be
extent.
lacking that nurture.
Exactly.
You'll want that nurture, so you won't
Exactly.
be independent at all.
Well, yes and
Well,
no.
yeah,
It
it's
depends on how
yeah,
the person takes it,
yeah.
but at the end of the day, that's still traumatizing for the
Because,
kid.
like, I'm very independent, but I really like that nurture from you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's weird. It's like I didn't know that I wanted it,
But I got very
but I like
nurtured.
being babied. Yeah.
I got very nurtured, and I still got like to be nurtured. I don't like to be
Yeah.
independent.
But I guess in a way, it's like you're used to it. Me, I never had it. I guess it's a balance. I think I got under nurtured and you got over nurtured. You know what I mean?
But no, but what I'm saying is, like, if I was over nurtured, do you think I would want to not be nurtured, or you think I would
No, you would.
still seek it?
It depends. It really depends on. It's on the mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you might be. Because you tell me all the time you're used to being nurtured.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But me, I'm telling you, like, I don't need it, but like it feels good because I never did get nurtured.
Yeah.
Well, I did, but not really. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it just all depends on the person and how they end up taking it. But it does become very traumatizing for a kid, because imagine you're crying or you're hurt and your mom just goes, get up, like, walk it off.
That's me.
Ma.
That's me.
And I'm not like that. I'd be like, are you okay? Are you bleeding? No? Okay. It's okay. Let's walk it off. Let's be okay.
Nah, it's
But
a
if
difference.
it's the way you say things. You can't just be like, get up. You're fine. Stop crying. Go. Like,
Man, that's weird
that's
because I feel like I would do
I know.
that.
And that's what I'm saying. It's not how or what you say, it's how you say it. You know what I mean? So that's with everything, and that's what I tell you. Like at times, like it it it's okay, like the way you think, like for our kids to be raised, like you want them to be independent, like how she did. Yeah, it's good that you
Not
want your
even to
kids to
be
be
tough.
independent or tough, and not have to go to somebody to be comforted. But there's a way to do it,
Yeah, yeah.
and you can't be
No te
just
pases.
yeah, you can't just not give them love.
Yeah,
You have to
especially
give
if
them
like they're
love.
actually hurt. Like, nah, like go nurture them. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, but for her and her family,
And you
and
could tell
her
because they
religion.
start crying where it's silent. It's like, that's how you know they busted their ass, bro.
This made her also seem like or feel like she was the boss. Like, I'm in control of you. I'm able to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
Right? So she was able to basically handle or control their own lives by doing that. During Shari's early memories, Ruby didn't like that Shari would cry. She didn't want her kids to cry. She didn't want her kids to be babied, right? But for Ruby, oh, she can cry. She can be babied. She can have the attention. Her kids can't.
Hypocriticism.
She's a hypocrite.
Yeah, she's a
That's the
hypocrite.
right.
Yeah.
So Shari remembers that in her early years of, as a young kid, she remembers Ruby crying a lot. So to her, and she wrote a book, and
Who,
I listened.
Ruby?
Sorry, Shari wrote a book now as she's older, talking about like the stories of her younger years with Ruby, with her mom. And what surprises me is she doesn't even call her mom. She doesn't call Ruby her mom. She calls Ruby Ruby.
Yeah.
She says Ruby. But I think it's because of all the things that she went
She
through with
wasn't
her
nurtured.
mom.
She wasn't, she didn't treat her like a mom.
And I'll give you another example of what actually happened between them two, and how Shari didn't see Ruby as her mother. Like it was just the way she was treating the way Ruby was treating Shari. It just seemed like, I don't know, it was more of a controlling situation than being a mother to her. Does that make sense? So Shari, like I said, in her early years, she remembers Ruby crying a lot. And so she was like, oh, Shari was like, okay, how come you can cry, but I can't? Like, how come you want to be nurtured and you want to be, taken care of, but me, I can't? So she remembers that as an older age. Shari remembers that as an older age, and she thinks about that a lot. And supposedly she would cry, Ruby would cry, and every occasion, every situation, she would cry when she's mad. She would cry when she's happy. She would cry when she's um overly stimulated. It was always crying and always wanted attention and always wanted someone to be there and be like, it's okay, Ruby, it's okay, and especially that was her husband, Kevin. After Shari was born in 2003, she had Chad, which he was born in 2005. So Chad and Shari are the ones that we're going to talk about the most. The other kids after that, we're not going to talk about them because we'll talk about them, but we won't mention their names because we want to hide their identity because of how much, their identity has been online by Ruby, and they're underage. So we're just going to keep their identity,
They're
not,
still underage.
even though their names are out there, we're not going to talk about
They're
them.
still underage.
They're still underage. Because Chad is 20 and Shari is 21.
Right now?
So
And she wrote a book?
Yeah.
Dang.
She talked about the story. I listened to the book.
Go
Listening
get
to
her.
the audio. And the way she describes things is just so crazy. But anyways, let me continue. So that's when Ruby's spotlight started. So after she had, the three kids, she had, I didn't mention, but she had Shari in 2003. She had Chad in 2005, and she had another kid in 2007. So that was a daughter. Overall, she ended up having 4 girls and 2 boys. So those are the amount of kids that she had. So her spotlight started by this blog that she created. It was earlier, way before the YouTube channel, but she called it Good Looking Home Cooking. So this is more of a blog. So this is more writing than it was, taking videos. It's more writing, more pictures, stuff like that, right? So it was like a journal. It was like a journal about her family's growth. It was, she kind of wanted it to be a place where her kids can look online and see their growth online. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how she described it. And her sisters at that time had started YouTube. That's very important. So Ruby's sisters had started at the time that she created the blog of Good Looking Home Cooking. Ruby's sisters started YouTube. Now YouTube at that time was starting to get popular because it was very new. YouTube was something that people were starting to go to for just to make little videos, and then that's when people started realizing that you can make money off of YouTube, right? And so Ruby's sisters decided to join YouTube and do little vlogs of like families and stuff like that, of their families and stuff like that, right? So that's really important. We'll go back to that though. The discipline started on her kids at a very early age. So as soon as they were born, like I said, we talked about it a little bit with Shari. So Shari and Chad were the first, the firstborns, and they were the first guinea pigs that she tried basically her
Guinea
discipline.
pigs. Yeah.
Yes, that's what basically
Yeah.
they
That's what
called
the
themselves.
true, because it's like the first child is always, the guinea pigs. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Shari mentions in her book, that they were basically the guinea pigs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Shari was the first guinea pig, as she states, right? One day in 2009, her fourth child was born. It was a girl. Ruby's mom gave Ruby a pajama set after birth. This is a story that Shari explains about Ruby and the situation and how she felt very distant from her mother, and how her mother, Ruby, viewed Shari as her daughter in a different light than how usually your mom or my mom would view us. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense? So one day, like I said, Ruby had her fourth child. She was in the hospital. Ruby's mom gave Ruby a pajama set, just like as a birth gift, basically, right? And Ruby was so excited. She was like, "Thank you, mom. Thank you so much." And Shari saw that because she was in the hospital room with when this was happening. Shari saw that and she felt a little bit like sad in a way, because she was like, "Oh, I want a pajama set," right? And she also thought like, okay, her mom gave Ruby, my mom, a pajama set. So when my mom give me a pajama set when I give birth, or will she give me something? So maybe, I don't know, maybe at that time Ruby wasn't gifting her kids anything, or maybe they just weren't used to getting anything, because for her to feel that way because Ruby got something from her mother, it was odd to me, because I don't think I would feel like that. Just because my mom had given me everything, I wouldn't be like, oh, but I want one too, because I already have everything, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So I was thinking
yes,
maybe,
kind of,
so I was
a
thinking
little bit.
maybe Ruby doesn't give her kids much of the things that they want. Like if they
Mm,
ask for something, I don't think Ruby would give, and it would make sense of the way, Ruby is and her character is.
yeah.
So that's what I was thinking, because Shari goes to Ruby and she goes, "Hey, Ma, would you give me a pajama set when I give birth?" And Ruby goes, "Yeah, I'll give you a pajama set when you give birth. That's when we'll be friends." Right? So basically, she made it seem like we're not friends. I'm your mom, you're my daughter, and I tell you what to do. And until you are a woman like me and worthy enough to be a woman like me, then we can be friends. That's so odd to me,
That's bad.
right? And that's how Shari explained it. For some reason, Ruby felt very calm when she disciplined her kids. This is what Shari explains in her book about Ruby. And she says that whenever she would discipline us, like say she was really stressed when she got home, but she disciplined us, she felt she started being happy. She started smiling. She started,
She basically
living
let
about her
out
day.
her anger on her children.
Yes. So there was a story about how Chad was one of the second oldest,
Mm-hmm.
remember? So Chad had cut Sherry's hair playing around. That's how what kids
Mm-hmm.
do. I don't know if you ever done that to your sister. You ever cut her hair? You did?
I think so. I vaguely remember.
Oh. Well, anyways, but Chad, he cuts Shari's hair, playing around, obviously. And Ruby thought of Shari, like, she would engrave this into her head. She's like, Ruby told Shari, you need to have long, luscious hair. You need to have perfect skin. You need to have the perfect body in order to win a man. So don't ever cut your hair. Don't ever dye it. Don't ever put makeup on and put too much makeup on. Like, don't ever put, like, she just engraved this in her head. She's like, you need to be good enough for a man. Like, if that was the reason of her living. Why? Whatever.
Dang, it's crazy because I see it's like she has a point to an extent, but I think it's to an extreme level.
Exactly. That's what I'm
Yeah, she
saying.
has a point to an extent because that's taking care of yourself, making sure your image is good. You know
Yes.
what I mean? And like stuff like that. But it's like taken to the extreme and then also being shamed for not doing it.
Exactly. That's what I
Because
was
those things
saying
are
whenever
really good to
people
teach to your kid.
that's what
But
I was saying
yeah,
when people when like she is thinking, like, the things that she's trying to teach her kids, it's not wrong.
but it
The
has to be
only the
balanced.
only thing that's wrong in this situation is the way she's doing it.
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
The
I
way
don't
she's
know. Like,
enforcing it and the way, like, yeah, the out, how she's making them feel
mhm,
for like not achieving those things.
yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, those things are really important. Like, cause yeah, take care of yourself, and make yourself look good and
But
everything.
it's for the wrong reason. Like,
Well,
she's throwing it in Ruby's throwing it in Sherry's face, like, if you need to be good enough for a man.
oh no, yeah, yeah, that's not
That's
cool.
how that and then that's how Sherry explains it in her book, that was always what she said to her. So now Chad cuts Sherry's hair. You know how I said
Yeah,
Ruby told Sherry, never cut your hair, don't ever do this, right?
dang,
So Ruby found out. Ruby found out that Chad cut Sherry's hair. At first, Ruby went up to Sherry and she's like, why did you do this? She grabbed the hair because she found the hair. And Ruby was like to Sherry, why did you cut your hair? And Sherry was like, I didn't cut it. It was Chad. And she storms out. Ruby storms out and goes to find Chad. And Sherry is like, oh no, but he was playing around. Like, she's trying to save her,
she's
her little
probably like
brother.
10 at that time, right?
They were pretty young. They were
Yeah, like
probably like
8 and 10.
yeah, the early, but right before teenage years. And yeah, Sherry was like, no, no, Chad was just playing around. Chad was just playing around, like, trying to protect her brother, right?
Mm.
And so Ruby was like, no, she's not having it. So she grabs Chad and she says, just so you can learn to not do this again, I'm going to take you to the bathroom. So she grabs Chad. Ruby grabs Chad, takes him to the bathroom, and she shaves his head off.
I knew it.
Okay, but not all of it. She shaves the sides. No, no. She shaves the middle, sorry. She shaves the middle of his head to make it seem like, okay, now you look foolish. And so
To
Sherry,
purposely humiliate him.
yes. So Sherry is listening to this, but she's listening, like, to Chad getting his haircut and all this stuff. And she feels so guilty. She's like, oh my God, like, I don't want my brother to get in trouble. And Chad comes out and he has, just the middle piece shaved off. And Ruby goes, just so you learn next time, you think twice to not to cut your sister's hair. So that was just, to me, weird and traumatizing to the kids, because it's like, now you just traumatized, now you just, like, humiliated your son. And your daughter, Sherry, is not traumatized because she had to see all of this happen. Chad and Sherry now hit 10, 11 years old. And this made their conditions a little bit more like if they were soldiers. So, what she did, if they didn't listen, she would make them run 5 laps around the block. So now they're soldiers. You know, to me, it's a little bit too extreme for you to have your kids run about a block if they are not listening to you. How you gonna make them run? She would also make them do push-ups. You're gonna do 20 push-ups right here, right now, because you don't know how to listen. I think those type
The
of things
5
are a little bit
laps,
too much.
okay, but like the push-ups.
5 laps? I'm not
No,
about to tell my kids go run 5 laps around the block.
I said the 5 laps. I
Oh.
said it's much.
Oh, okay.
But the push-ups, I don't think so.
Those are things that I don't know. To me, I don't really agree with. They're still human beings.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they're supposed to be treated with respect, and that's disrespecting them because now you're humiliating them, and you're also not giving them the love that a mom should give their
Yeah, you
kids,
always have
right?
to have love, and everything you do towards your kid has to be out of love because you love them.
Yes. Now, this kind of starts off with the launch of 8 Passengers. So, 8 Passengers started in January 2015, and this was another way of her trying to show the world how good, quote unquote, of a mother she was. And she wanted to be praised as a good mother, right? And so, like I said, this channel focused on mostly her daily life with her children. Her first videos had to do with family routines, kids at home, parenting tips, family trips, stuff like that. So that's how she kind of, what's it called, painted her YouTube channel as. So Ruby started it and she wanted people, like I said, to say that she was an amazing mom. So they blew up. Like in a very short amount of time, they blew up. Their first paycheck was about $85. When that paycheck came in, Kevin, her husband, when he saw that, he was like, okay, so this can make us money. It's $85, but like $85 from a YouTube video? Like, what the heck? So this could be something for us. So he was on board. He was like, Ruby, you do your thing, right? So they started that. And Kevin felt really excited and he wanted more money. So the 8 Passengers LLC was born. So they started the channel
Yeah.
and they branded it. So the kids were known as employees. So Ruby was like, okay, you guys are my employees. You guys get $10 for each video you guys help with. So each video that you're in, you get $10, but you don't get to have those $10. We're gonna save those $10 until when you turn 18, then you can take it out and have it. It's a good thing what she's doing. She's trying to teach her kids how to, use their money, but at the end of the day, the way she's doing it is a little bit crazy.
It's like
It's extreme.
responsibility though.
It is responsibility, but she's doing it to the extreme, if that makes sense. Because your kid is 4 years old and you're telling that he's an employee. Now he works for you. What the heck? So they ended up with millions of subscribers. Within a few years, they hit 2 million. So they were getting huge. This was in 2015. Once they started hitting those million, subscribers, and they started hitting thousands of views, millions of views, their paychecks grew. They would get about 2,000 a month.
Mm.
From there, they would get about 18,000 a month. 8,000 a month. And then from there, they would get 20,000 a month.
Golly.
Until it got to the point to the very, very high, the peak of their YouTube channel, they ended up getting 100,000 per month.
Dang.
What am I doing?
Mm.
Well, I am doing this video, so like that would be nice, So yeah, they would get 100,000 a month. So obviously Ruby was like, I'm making money. We're basically rich. So they ended up moving from where they were at, and they got their beautiful big home. And there she started, continuing her YouTube channel, and she was very disciplined. She's like, we're going to continue this. These videos are going to be like this, and you guys need to focus. Like, this is our jobs, basically, right? So they believed that this was a blessing from God. Ruby and Kevin believed that this was a blessing from God and that they needed to do their best. And Ruby was now the America's best mom because that's how she was viewed, right? In their YouTube channel. So she loved this. Ruby loved this. Ruby mentioned that she was meant to be some sort of instrument in the hand of God. So she believed what she was doing was because God needed her to do this. Does that make sense?
You know what that reminds me of?
Mm-hmm.
Every villain is the hero in their own story.
Yeah.
Like sometimes that's why we humans can't determine good or bad for ourselves. It's up to God to determine
Mm-hmm.
good or evil because you might think that you're doing good, but in reality, you might be doing bad.
Exactly. So this got to her head,
Yeah.
right?
Lack of wisdom. It's okay.
Yeah. So this really got to her head and made her feel like she was the hero.
Mm-hmm.
So YouTube was more important than anything else to her. The eight passengers, the kids started feeling like unhappy. They started feeling like, they're constantly on camera. Ruby's constantly having them to act. Ruby's constantly having them to be perfect. Like they cannot mess up. They cannot act like kids. They have to act
That's
perfect
not
on
good.
camera, right? And so the kids started to be, they just started to be unhappy. And so
It's not
Ruby,
fun no more. It's like a job.
exactly. And Ruby was getting worried because they were like, now you're losing your shine. You're losing your light. She's like, how are you guys going to be acting this way if this is our job? And Kevin was adding on to this. Kevin is not,
He's
to
not. He's not
me,
protecting the kids.
yes, to me, he's not very innocent in this situation. But at the end of the day, Ruby was the boss. Kevin did not know how to be the boss. Kevin was the youngest in his family, and Ruby was the oldest. Ruby was always the boss. So Kevin was just used to having that, being told what to do. So in that situation, it's like Kevin didn't really know how to talk over Ruby or, go against Ruby. So Ruby was like, okay, like if you guys don't help, this is our jobs. This is what's paying us. You guys need to be happy on camera. You guys need to start smiling on camera because you guys are the employees and you guys need to learn that this is our thing. And we're YouTubers and we're never going to stop being YouTubers. Everybody sees our move. Everybody looks at us. You guys need to be perfect. Right?
I could see why you asked me the question in the beginning. Then, like, what do you think about family reality TV shows? Because then it starts getting nitpicky like that.
Yeah.
You need to get the viewers. You need to do this. You need to do that. And I feel like I think the route she should have took is a leadership role
Mm-hmm.
instead of I'm the boss role. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's what she should have learned to do, to be a leader and like care about other people's feelings. How is
Exactly.
everybody feeling? You know, is
Exactly.
everybody still wanting to do this? Are
Because at
we
the end of the
working
day,
towards this goal?
yeah, because at the end of the day, they're still her kids.
Yeah,
They're not just
definitely.
random people.
Mm-mm.
They're her kids, and she has to make sure that her kids are comfortable. Her kids are okay.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, she's still their mom.
Yeah.
But she's just acting like, she owns them and that's it, right? So yeah, so it got to the point where they had to clean the house every single day. The house had to be perfect. They changed the light bulbs of the house from the yellow ones to the white ones. Like the house was painted all white. It just looked like basically a studio. The kids were like, it didn't feel like a home. It felt like a studio. It felt too perfect. It was just, we could not play around. We could not run around. Like it was just things like that. Shari explains in her book, right?
Hmm.
So that's when the kids started feeling like this is not fun. Like I just want to live my life.
Yeah, it's an
The kids,
important part of a kid's growth
yes.
too.
And so the kids started like, losing their personality because at the end of the day, like they were just always constantly on camera and they always had to be perfect. Now Chad had a lot to he felt he was the one that was more rebellious on this. He would purposely make his mom mad. If his mom was like, "Don't do that," or "You gotta smile," he would not smile. And if she was like, "Don't talk like that," he would talk like that. Like it's just he would do anything and everything to go against her because he was not happy. He said for a few years, for a year, he felt like that wasn't his mom. That Ruby wasn't his mom. Chad was just very just upset with his mom and the way she was treating them. So she started doing these videos about the kids. It was basically getting too personal. She started posting videos of like, these are the titles of the videos: Bra shopping with brothers. Officially started puberty. first time shaving, ski school, wet my pants. So those videos are too personal, I think. I'm not gonna exploit my
wet
kids.
my pants.
Yeah, like they went to ski school and I guess they peed their pants.
Yeah, that's humiliating your kids.
So yeah, so it's getting to the point where like now you're exploiting your kids. Now you're, first bra shopping, like that's just too personal. And puberty, like why do you need to share your kids' puberty story? Like you don't need to do that. That's just too much for to put on in public. So their parenting
It's
style started.
but yeah, no, that's too much.
Yeah, so the parenting styles and discipline started appearing more on the channel. So she started not caring and she started, being, authentic, I guess.
I'm only going to say it one more time and then you're going to lose the privilege to eat dinner. If you cut one more thing in my house, we're chopping its head off. I'm going to take the scissors, look at me, and I'm going to cut its head off.
Grandma, I'm gonna be so mad.
So what are you going to do?
Are you gonna cut anything else? No.
You promise? Look at Mama.
So yeah, so we talked about the channel, right? And we talked about her discipline. So now we're going to get to the public's controversies. So Ruby was open about disciplining her kids, right? She started disciplining her kids more, and which this drew a lot of red flags for people, right? So a lot of people were just not feeling it. And Chad now, like on camera, he got taken his bedroom. I mean, his bedroom was taken away from him, from Chad, for 7 months.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months, and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October.
So this
rebelling.
so this is very important, and the reason why I bring this up again is because this is gonna start where the next part is gonna pick up. Part 2. Ruby got to the point where she felt like nothing was helping Chad, and Chad was gonna ruin the channel. So Ruby was like, okay, we need to seek a therapist. We need to help Chad out because he's getting too much and he's gonna ruin my channel. So that's where she finds Jody Hildebrandt. Jody Hildebrandt was
shivers.
Jody Hildebrandt was a therapist. And so Jody made and viewed the kids' lives as like, you have to listen to your parents no matter what. Like your parents are your controllers. Your parents need to tell you what to do and you need to listen to your parents, right? To a certain extreme, yes.
That's sad, but it's true. But it's like,
Yes.
I battled with that too.
Exactly. I mean, me too, but it's true, right? Like I said, she's a therapist of Chad, but then she starts being a part of the family. She ends up getting to the point, there's even controversies or like situations where they think that Jody and Ruby are together.
Jody's a guy?
No, Jody's a girl. They think that they're together, and this whole plan, they work together as a team. Like in part 2, we're going to talk about it. Basically, Jody and Ruby becomes a team, and they end up disciplining the kids to the extreme. Jody becomes like this demon in the house that just raises the kids in a more malicious way, to the point where they would trap them in a room, tie them up, starve them, and this gets to a scene or a clip that I will be adding in part 2 of one of the kids, the younger kids of Ruby and Kevin. He runs to the next door neighbor, and this is all on like a door camera. And he runs to the next door neighbor and he knocks on the door, and they don't answer for a little bit, and then he tries to walk away, and then the neighbor opens the door. The neighbor is like, hey, how can I help you? And then the kid's like, hey, can you call the police? And then the neighbor's like, why? What happened? Can you sit right here? Let's talk about it. So they start talking about it. Basically, what happened was that kid was trapped in the room, tied up, starved. The kid, from what the neighbor stated, he was so skinny. He was literally skin and bone. Skin and bone. He looked messed up the kid. He was about maybe like 6, 7 years old. He was really young. So we're gonna kind of go more in depth of that situation in part 2. But this part we're just talked about a little bit about background in the YouTube channel just to start up what actually is going to happen and what got to the point where she was arrested and so was Jody. But that's that. That's the beginning
That's crazy.
Of the 8 passengers. And I can't wait to tell you more about it because it gets crazier. You think this is crazy? You think the way she was disciplining them now or for part 1 is crazy? Part 2 is going to get even worse. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a long one, and it was just a lot of information that we needed to talk about her background and the YouTube channel and getting onto the discipline and what is going to lead to the next part and how it leads to Jody and to the arrest of Ruby and Jody.
Like, comment, share, and subscribe.
And stay tuned for the next video. Bye.